Hey guys, this is kind of a response to other witchy videos in that I love watching videos of other pagans going around and showing their gardens and what they grow, even if it's just a windowsill herb garden. I love that kind of thing. So I've been wanting to do my own, and today's a really nice day. My husband just mowed. When I say garden, I mean my yard. I mean it kind of in the British sense. To me, when I think of yard, I think of grass. But when I think of garden, I think of a yard that's full of plant life. And that's what we're striving for. So I'm going to show you my front garden and my back garden. So this is obviously my front garden. And let me preface this by saying that when we moved into the house, it'll be 6 years in October. So this is our 6th spring. There was nothing in the yard. There was a tiny little bush in the back in the ditch, all lonely and unloved. And that was it. So everything I'm going to show you, we have done in this past 6 years. First, we have these little planters out front. There's another one over there. I don't remember what this plant is called, but it loves full sun. And it's so pretty. So every year we have to replant them, but that's all right. They're not super expensive. Next, we're going to go visit our spruce. This is our little spiral spruce, and you can trim them so that the spiral is more pronounced. I tried that a few years back and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. So I think if I try it again, I'm going to watch some YouTube videos. He is blooming so much more this year than he ever has before. He's gotten so poofy. Just over here is a little twig. Last year we planted 5 new trees in the yard. They are all itty bitty babies. This one has not sprouted any foliage. All the other ones have. If it does take, this will grow into a big beautiful crabapple tree. But that remains to be seen. And just over here is our bird bath for our front garden. I love birds. I have an affinity for them, so we have one up front and another one just like it in the back. These bushes, I don't remember what they're called either. I just thought they were really pretty because they have this multicolored appearance. They turn gold, and they were tiny when we first planted them. You see this poor little thing over here. We're trying to save it. I don't remember what it's called, but it's probably dead, but we're going to try. In this poor bed, we have attempted, this is the 3rd, maybe the 4th attempt to grow something in this bed. Everything always died. There was some weird fungus growing in it at one point. Finally, I just said, let's throw some rosemary in there because rosemary is so hardy, and as long as it gets sun and lots of water, it's good, and it has thrived. I just watered all the herbs, and I love when we water the rosemary because it just fills the air with the rosemary fragrance. Over here by the stoop, we used to have a pot with another rosemary in it. That's out back now. In here, there was a lily. It came back for several years, but it's finally given up the ghost, and now it's just mainly clover, whatever the birds drop in there. Eventually, in this gap here between the pole and the side of the house, we're going to put in white lattice and then put ivy over that. Plant ivy in this little planter and then have it grow up the lattice. Up here is my fern. Years ago, many years ago, I had a positively black thumb. I could kill anything. And the first thing I ever got to grow when I was in my 20s was a fern. So I've had this huge affinity for them. I always have one. Every year we get one. Right now he hangs there. But when we put the lattice up, I think I'm going to start growing ferns in these 2 slanted pots here. And there's our little Buddha with our green apophyllite. And up here, if you can see, is our bird nest. When we first moved in, this pole here was loose. So I had my husband put a shim in, and birds
came that first spring and made their nest there. We've been there ever since. And you can see that new shim. My husband just put it in this year because sometimes the baby birds fall out of the nest and we've had to put them back in. But yeah, when they have their babies, sometimes they dive bomb us when we go in and out of the door. We walk this way, you'll see my husband sweeping the garage. Say hi, baby.
Hi.
He just finished mowing the lawn. Over here on this side is an American redbud. And it is thriving, thankfully. Just up from the redbud, well, you see my doggy Judah, there is one of our little hydrangeas. Believe it or not, this little guy is at least 4 years old. Unfortunately, the first year my husband forgot he was here and ran him over with a lawnmower, so he's at least a year behind. At least he came back, and he does get beautiful leaves, but he hasn't gotten very big, and he has never had a bloom on him as of yet. All right, let's move to the backyard. All right, this is the back garden, and I will take you through it just as I did the front. Sorry if my dogs bark or be weird. So this is our big hydrangea. She will get at least twice this size probably this year, and she gets big beautiful blooms on her. She was the one we had out front and tried to die, and we put her back here, and she's thrived and she's great. Over here is ambrosia. I apologize for people doing their yard work in the background. Please bear with me. So ambrosia is the tiny bush, little thin bush we had way out back past the fence line when we moved in. She was totally unloved. We moved her up, and she's even bigger than this. We actually trimmed her back this past fall because she was getting out of control. Just over here behind her is another baby, and it's a little twig baby, but you can see there's some foliage on it. This one is a crepe myrtle. All of the trees we have planted in the yard are flowering trees, so they'll attract all the bees and butterflies and all that good stuff. This here is our apple tree. It's kind of wonky at the moment. He was growing funky. He didn't produce any blossoms last year, although this year he has plenty. But last year he didn't produce any fruit. And when we looked it up, we discovered that if an apple tree, or a fruit tree period, it has limbs growing in on itself, it won't produce fruit. So we had to trim some of the branches, which is awesome because then we made apple wood wands. But this year, lots of blossoms, so I'm expecting apples this year. We have had them in the past. If you've never smelled an apple blossom, I kind of feel sorry for you. Not only are they beautiful, but they smell amazing. And my husband and I come out when they fall to the ground, like there's one. We did it. And harvest the apple blossoms, of course, for my magics. Right here beside our apple tree is our blueberry bush. Now, this just got planted yesterday. This is the newest addition, and you can see there's already some little blueberries. They're green, but they're coming up. I'm so excited. I would also like to plant a blackberry bush back here. Here we have the wisteria. We've got our little bench that we jokingly pitch woo at. We're actually going to be getting a new bench because this one's kind of crumbling. We're going to get a better one. And the wisteria, of course, is beautiful. I've been harvesting it. I've actually got some in the dehydrator as we speak, drying out. Great for intuition and psychic abilities and stuff like that. And you can see all the little blossoms on the ground. It's beautiful. It smells amazing. Just over here is another baby. This beautiful baby is a dogwood tree. And I love how these they look like lily pads, grow up all around it. Over this way is the cherry blossom. Now, somewhere in between this dogwood and the cherry blossom, when the trees get bigger, my husband and I want to get a bee colony. I make all my candles out of beeswax, as well as my altar charms and other things. It would be nice to be able to get that for free. I love bees. We'd have local honey at our fingertips, and we could sell the honey. So it's something that we're really looking into. And of course,
if we get a bee colony, I want a bee bath. What is a bee bath, you ask? Well, for those who don't know, it's just like a bird bath, except you fill it with marbles so that the bees can land on it without drowning and get a drink. That's our fire pit over there. This is the cherry blossom. Of course, she has already bloomed and dropped all of her blossoms, and we harvested those. We're building up a second layer of the ring around her. We've got to get some more pavers. I don't know that I'll be able to find any of the ladybugs. We had aphids, or have aphids. So we ordered ladybugs. You can order live ladybugs, and they'll let them go and they'll eat all the aphids. So hopefully they're doing their job so that my trees don't get eat up. Over here, there's the lily, which poor little lily has already lost all of its blossoms. I would like to plant a couple more lilies here. And this is the ivy ring with the bird bath. Used to be a bird feeder here, but it kind of deteriorated. We need a new one. My mother had an ivy ring in her yard, and I loved it. So I decided to do the same thing and have an ivy ring in my yard. We've just expanded it, so the ivy's got plenty of room to grow some more. That's my Judah baby. In between these two, I want to have a natural arbor. I want to take some really thick vines or what have you and twist them together and make an archway in between these two rings so that there's some interest in the garden, places for the birds to land. I love to feed the birds. Over here we've got another baby. This is another crabapple. So even if the one in the front doesn't take, we've got the crabapple, and I figure if it doesn't take, we'll plant maybe a Japanese maple or a paper birch. I would love to have a paper birch. So I'll be okay with it. And then there's the greenhouse. Over here, got all kinds of dead things, horseshoe crab, rock quartz, and all kinds of just rocks and bones and turtle shells and all kinds of seashells because we live at the beach, and another big piece of rock quartz and this big stump with roots here. Another hunk of wood back here. This plant right here is a weed that grows in our yard, but my husband hates them and he always takes them out. So I planted one because I don't care if it's a weed. I think it's pretty. I like it. I just think they're really beautiful. So yeah, I saved the weeds. Here we have my little, I use it as a doorstop to keep the door open so the herbs get air during the day. Reminds me of a merkaba, so sacred geometry for sure. And here's my green man. And behind the green man, you're not going to be able to see it, I don't think, but oh, that little saucer has some honey in it. This is where I make offerings to the Fae. I do work with the Fae, and I agree with Zipporah when she says that fairies are assholes. I would say fairies can be assholes, and they can be very helpful and lovely too, so it kind of depends, but I totally get where she was coming from, but I do work with the Fae. Here we have lavender. Now this is not French lavender. It's not the kind that has the little pods that we're accustomed to when we're working with lavender. That I have planted right here, but it hasn't sprouted yet because it's coming from seed. Inside we have wood for the fire pit. Crystals and rocks and stuff. Always got to have that kind of stuff. This is my joy, y'all. This is my mint. This is my chocolate mint. If you've never smelled chocolate mint, it's amazing. It literally smells like chocolate mint, like a candy or something crazy. This is thyme. I might get some lemon thyme too. I want to get more herbs. This is what I have at the moment. This is my lemon balm. It was just harvested yesterday or the day before, but the lemon balm grows like crazy. I love it. And some more lemon balm. Here is my cinnamon basil, and I am in love with cinnamon basil. When I water it, it smells amazing. When I harvest it, it smells amazing. I am going to be making lots of tea for sure with this cinnamon basil. And here's my sweet basil, also smells amazing. All of them do, really. Lemon balm smells like lemon, go figure.
And here is my chamomile babies that are coming up. So I'm looking forward to that. And as I said, I want some more, but this is what I have for now. If we come over here, this is that rosemary I was talking about. Now, the woman who named me She Who Walks Between the Worlds grew a big rosemary bush outside her front door. So I wanted to have a piece of her with me when I moved in. And so I put a pot out front with this rosemary in it. And she thrived until last year. And then she just, I mean, there was literally like this little bit of green on her. And that was it. The rest was dead. So we ripped her out of the pot and threw her in the ground. And, you know, she's not doing great. But compared to what she was, she is doing fantastic. So I'm really happy with that. This rosemary I use for cooking. The ones up front I use for magic. This is just a bee blend. We got a free pack of seeds in the mail. I don't remember why, but we did. And it's bee-friendly flowers. And I knew if I threw them in the yard, my husband would run them over by accident. So I threw them in a pot. And then up here, we have the cactuses and succulents. I love to grow them. It used to be a thing with me and my son. We'd go pick them and come and put them in. Not as much anymore. You know, he's 15, but he still likes them. He's just not as into it. And I want to harvest all these big needles, use them in protective magic. So I'm looking forward to that. I haven't gotten any in the past with these big needles. I usually get these little furry ones. And lastly is the birdseed. This is a miniature trash can. It's galvanized so it won't rust. Keep the birdseed in here. I throw birdseed in the lid and then go out into the yard and feed the birds wherever I feel like feeding them, usually near the ivy and the trees. I'm going to stop feeding them over there by the apple tree because I don't want them messing with my blueberries. But yeah, that's it. This is my garden space, my outdoor sacred space. Eventually, like I said, there's more things I want to do. I want to have hedges running from back behind where ambrosia is all the way out to the middle where the wisteria is, from both sides, and just being open right there in the middle to add interest and depth to the garden. I want to put a big mugwort bush out here by the ivy, just in front of it. I want to put my bay tree I'm going to get on the other side of the greenhouse. I eventually want to put pergola over the patio and have like climbing roses and stuff growing up all over it. I got stuff I want to do. It's going to take years though, but that's okay. And other than a blackberry bush, that's all I know I really want for now. At any rate, guys, thanks for joining me. I really enjoyed sharing my space with you. And until next time, much love and gratitude.